To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Backyard Gardens podcast. It is a beautiful day. It is a hot day, and it is a perfect day to talk about saving seeds. I know you probably were asking yourself recently, are they even going to talk about saving seeds? Absolutely. Do you save seeds, Batavia?
I do save seeds, young Ben.
All of the seeds or just some of the seeds?
I think you know the answer is some of the seeds.
Yeah, you know.
Maybe even not many of the seeds.
Just because I know the answer doesn't mean I can't ask it, because not everybody does. But also, there's always a question in my mind, because I envision you being like, I like this one, and I like this one, and I like that one, and I like this one. The question should have been, do you always know what seeds you're saving after they're dried?
Never. I found this little bitty glass container. Like, I don't know, it's probably like 6 ounces, 8 ounces or something, in the back of my cabinet, where I have a mason jar of coconut oil and then like some nice flaky salt, because the people online say you're supposed to have like some like nice finishing salt. So anyway, I was looking for some things and I pulled it out, and it looks like some type of melon or squash seed. And I'm like, there's like no way I'll ever know what this is until it like actually grows.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't bring myself to throw the seeds away.
You know, before we even kick this off, I want to throw this out there. It would be kind of fun one year to take like all of your seeds that you save, all of your like melons, and put them in a pile, and all your squashes and put them in a pile, you know, each type of vegetable, and then just randomly plant them and see what you get. I think that may be a little bit of fun. It may be incredibly frustrating as well, but you know, it could be like a big game show. Like, what is the garden going to produce? The longest running game show ever, because it would take a whole year just to get, you know, each category done.
Yeah, no thanks.
No. Maybe I'll do it in my garden.
Yeah, the work that I need to put into a lot of these plants, like I could accept when I plant something and it, like I mixed it up, like I mislabeled a start. I could even accept to a degree, like I could accept the mistake of it. A company, you know, sent the wrong seeds, you know, had the wrong transplant labeled. I can't accept walking into the chaos. Can't do it to myself.
It's crazy. So look, before we get started, everybody, we are talking about seeds, which means if you need seeds, you can go to our shop below and pick up some seeds for yourself. We do have a lot of direct sowable seeds, and we have our fall seeds now in stock. And sooner or later, we will end up getting seeds for next year as well, like tomatoes and stuff. So please check that out and get yourself some seeds. We would love to send you seeds directly from either Batavia, the Botanical, or Young Ben will send you a pack of seeds. Also, become a patron or a subscriber, and check our Amazon list below. Amazon Prime Day just went on, so bookmark it. A lot of the things were on sale, and there will be another Prime Day, so get yourself some deals and all that good stuff. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did.
No, we'll get to the planter app as we get into the episode.
Oh, yeah, the planter app. We'll get there. You know that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we've got 10 questions to answer here. Not listener questions, just questions that we came up with. And some of them are really fast, and this will kind of go through the order on saving seeds. If you're already a seed saver, it may help to kind of narrow down your choices, maybe hone in your skills a little bit. And if you're new, then there you go. We've got it designed for everybody. The first one we've got is, I think it's a real easy one. Do you even like the vegetable?
If you had to say in rapid fire, you have less than 5 seconds to answer, how often do you grow something in your garden that turns out you really didn't like?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm asking you.
I know, and I'm just, well,
4.
Ask me a vegetable. That's what I was going to do.
What?
No.
Name it then? You know, that'll equal how often.
Star of David okra. Do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
5, 4.
I didn't.
3, 2,
I never grew
1.
it.
Oh.
Today.
Clemson okra. 5, 4.
I like it.
There you go. See, Roma tomatoes, I like it. Yellow squash, I do not like it. I said it.
If I didn't can tomatoes and tomato sauce and tomato products, I'd never grow Roma tomatoes.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about Roma tomatoes today.
Okay, sorry, bud.
I have a whole monologue about that coming up soon. We can talk about it on the show. It's the choices that I make that piss me off sometimes. But yeah, so it's just an easy question. Do you even like it? I know I've grown a lot of things. I've saved seeds out of desperation before. Some stuff that I'm like, yeah, I could eat it. And then I come back and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. So I've done that for sure quite a few times, more than I'd like to admit. But it's now I'm getting more honed in. So,
I mean, there's a theory, without going into too much detail, around your upbringing kind of influences some of these things. It's the way that you manage your finances, the way that you decide what you're going to spend money on, the potential fear around not having something, not having enough of it. And so remember I told you this story a bunch of years ago where this salad dressing that I bought just was terrible, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. It was like, somebody's going to be here one day and I'm going to make dinner and there's going to be a salad and they're going to love this dressing, so there is this. And it's so funny. I let it interrupt my garden sometimes and then just decide it's just not worth it. So there are things like once things start to go to seed, I feel like a level of guilt by pulling it. It's like I told you this before, the responsible thing seems like even if I didn't like it, the responsible thing is like, well, maybe someone else will.
I get what you're saying, though, and I respect that, too, because, as we will get into, it's a dedication to save seed sometimes. And, there are sacrifices that have to be made. And so, that's why we have that first easy question up there is like, do you even like it? Because you have to go down this list that we have and then like, how available is the seed? That's another great question to ask. I have a seed that I save every year that the seed's not available from I can tell, but any one place that I don't like to buy seeds from. So I choose to save my seed every year. And that's a really important move on my part because, for me, I don't want to support certain places. And so this is my way of having what I want. And it was an accident that I even got the seed to start off with, but that's my favorite desi squash, which I found out if you guys have taken my advice and grown the desi squash, you got to peel it first before you cook it. Okay. It took me 4 years, but we got it. You peel it first and it's a lot better. But, so the desi squash is a big one for me. Now, the downside of it is I told my wife the other night, she was cooking, or last night actually, she cooked our last squash. And I said, I need you to save the seeds out of that squash. Well, she cooked them all. So I'm like, great. So now I'm like, I might have a couple here somewhere, maybe. So I've got to figure that out. That was a mistake. If I have to buy the seeds, I will because I really do enjoy them. But do you have a seed like that you save because of that reason?
I think that the pineapple tomato, it is readily available to me, right? But there is this idea of in this moment it's readily available. Yeah. Will it continue to be? Right.
Well, and that was a real thing a couple of years ago when the seed shortage happened, and that's what spurred me to really get into seed saving.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that if there is, it's similar to what you experienced. It's past the point that I realized, not only is this seed not that available, I really, really enjoy it. And I'm kind of past the point in the season where the saving of the seed is ideal. I don't think there's anything that I can think of on the top of my head that's like, oh no, every time I grow it, I got to save the seeds from it. If I was gifted like some seeds and then I realized I like that plant, I try to save those seeds. Scarlet runner beans are a good example. The first time that I grew them, it was like through kind of like an informal seed swap. And I had a few seeds from the person that gifted them. And I'm like, it it was like a high and low effort a couple of years back to get them.
Right.
Right. And it's like, and then you kind of get into that. Do I really want to buy one seed, order one package from the company? You know, you end up buying a few more, and then maybe you end up spending more than what you really wanted to spend.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like if I have to order these Desi seeds, Desi squash, I'm only going to order one pack, which means that pack of seeds is going to cost me $8-9. You know, I do love the squash, so that will happen. The other one was my husk tomatoes. When I first started growing them, I had to save the seed from the vegetable that I bought at the farmer's market in order to grow it because I couldn't find it anywhere. Now it's readily available. And then I learned that they're actually called ground cherries. So, you know, that was just kind of something that I had to work through. But, you know, that was another one that really got me into it because I can't find this seed, you know. And as you move through, you'll find more and more like that. So that's a big part of it. And then to go along with that is how expensive is the seed? That's, you know, there are some places and there are some seeds that are very, very expensive. I'm talking $10 a pack, $12 a pack, and so forth. So, you know, if, you know, one of the more expensive places, which I do buy seeds from time to time, is Johnny's, and they are known to be expensive seeds. So if I can save that seed, then I'm saving money right off the bat.
Yeah. I think it's something like spend $100 and they'll give you free shipping.
I never buy $100. My whole garden's, my budget's like $60-70 for all of my seeds, and that can go into multiple years.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that I have been into growing by seed, the more vast my seed collection has become. And I need fewer seeds year to year.
Yeah.
You know. So there is something to be said about that. I think when you talk about, you know, how important it is to me, which is kind of what's wrapped up in this, like how important is it, you know, how expensive is it, you know, how available is it, you know, is it readily available? A part of what we're doing as gardeners is, and you've talked about this more recently, I think, over on Sandy Bottom Homestead, you know, if I can't get this vegetable in the store, a part of the benefit is I can get it in for my garden.
Right.
But I don't want to be really limited in what I can get for my garden either.
Yeah. You know, and that's a big draw to it as well. So, you know, it's something to factor into the equation, I believe. I know that we're flying through these, but trust me, we've got some that we've got to land on and really kind of go through, and it's fun. Leonard just sent me a note and he's like, slow down. But I'm looking at what we've got coming up, and you know, some of them are going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, for expensive seeds, you know, it's just one of those things. But money doesn't just come in, like, to me, and I think about it differently, but money comes into a lot of things. It comes into, especially in the garden, it comes into time, space, watering, fertilizing. And then if you factor in like subsection of space, what could go into that area if you didn't let something go to seed?
Come on, somebody.
So that brings us, well, it doesn't quite bring us there, but we're at the ease of saving the seed. So this is the time factor. Some things are really easy to save and some things aren't. What are your top, would you suggest for a beginner to save seed? Like,
I think the ease of saving the seed and kind of the things that I call out for the beginner is it's things that have larger seeds. It's things that have seeds that are going to be viable at the point of maturity. Like, I don't need to let something go past its prime to get the seed, right? I don't need to let it dry out of the plant. I think melons are a great example of, you know, something that's easy for seed saving. I think peppers are a really great example. You get a ton of pepper seeds from a single pepper. I think maybe I am kind of, it's a little bit counter to what I just said, because ideally you want to let that pepper get completely mature, right? I think that Melons may be a little easier to save and keep like separate. Because some, like, you look at the crimson watermelon that we have in our shop, that seed color is very different than the cantaloupe seed. Peppers, they all look alike. but I think, though, again, if you keep things in order and separate it, it's a really easy seed to save.
Yeah, and we'll have a section at the end where we discuss different things that we use to save seeds, so just hang in there. And everybody has their own method, too. So remember that as we go through it. I think, stuff like green beans are really good because invariably you're going to have a bean on there that's going to go over the maturity. It's going to get over mature. And so you pull it off and you could throw it away, you can compost it, but you can also just save the seed at that time. Okra is another really good one. Everybody's gone to get their okra off their plant and been like, well, I got too many okras. I can't keep, you can't keep up with it. So that's another one that's just really easy to save. So it's stuff like that. I think peas are another good one. I've had so many, like especially snow peas. You just can't keep up with them. So you're always going to have somewhere on the plant. I bet you get probably no less than 20 different pods full of seeds that you can save. So I think those are all really good. And then like you can even get in like flowers are really good to save too, because a lot of times you're deadheading. Well, at that point, the seed's good, so you can deadhead like zinnias, sunflowers, easy to save. And it's just a good entry point into it for a lot of reasons too. Like some of these, like if you only grow one type of bean, one type of pea, and one type of sunflower, you can pull those and you don't even have to label them or anything. You'll be able to look at them and know what they are. So it's a good way to get started. Marigolds are, does anything get any easier than marigolds?
Yeah, I think I want to provide some commentary around a few of those. Marigolds and sunflowers are both really nice ones because you're not necessarily sacrificing the beauty of the plant. So marigolds, most of them get bushy. And so if one flower starts to dry out, it doesn't mean the entire plant is done. Right. No. So you could deadhead a few of them and leave a few more to completely dry out and still have a bunch of flowers that are blooming, similar to kind of sunflowers and them kind of completing the cycle of that plant. Watch out for the birds, squirrels, and all the things in between when it comes to sunflowers. And then okra, such a great size seed, when it comes to saving. The only challenge I've ever faced in my growing space is I'm going to go ahead and take one for the team and say in part based on when I plant them and then the time my okra plants are actually producing. By the time they get to the point where I'm letting, okra pods dry on the vine, it gets like the freeze comes in and kills them before they dry on the vine. They're one of a handful of plants, again, you need it to completely go through its full process of producing that seed on the plant itself. I think that, there's something to be said about even the act of saving seeds. We went to the top of, do you really like the vegetable? If you're absolutely new to this, it doesn't hurt to just pick a couple of plants, vegetables or flowers, and give it a try. Come up with what your system is going to be for it. Yeah,
I got into saving some flower seeds and stuff like that. And there is subnote in this whole subject, and I think this is a good place to talk about it, is self-seeding too. This is one of Batavia's little nuggets. Someone steal it from her. It's a hack of sorts. Yeah, but especially with flowers, like if you got a patch and you want it to grow, just leave it. The birds will take care of it. And this is a good excuse, and I use the word excuse on purpose, to be lazy in the fall and just leave the flower on the vine or the stalk or whatever, and let it self-seed. And you'll be surprised what you get the next year. There's some level of interest it could add to your garden as well. And each year for the last at least 3, I'd say, the only way I've actually had cilantro and dill grow is through self-seeding from the previous year. Yeah. They all each produce a lot of seeds and they get scattered across the garden. And it's really cool
there are a couple of things that I just want to spend a second for self-seeding. A couple of things that it teaches you. God bless you.
Thank you.
It teaches you when the plant is ready to grow.
Yeah.
When you look at that next year, I would, the first time I saw it, I was surprised. Like, I'm working up the soil. It's workable. So I'm outside, but I have cilantro that's germinated, and it's kind of going full in. And I'm like, dude, it's like the beginning of April.
Yeah.
It's like late March or something, which again is a reminder of how hardy that thing is. And then dill, I haven't been able to get the timing right for, direct sowing dill in 5 years.
Yeah, me
I still
either.
don't have it right.
I gave up this year. I should probably retry, to be honest. I still have time, but I don't know. I'd see if I've got some seeds in the stash. But I mean, yeah, that's the big part of it is, the self-seeding. And I mean, you can even do it for vegetables, lettuce, stuff like that, self-seeds. It's just, again, we'll get into in the next section, the kind of the issue with that. But all that stuff really comes into factor as far as like the ease of saving the seed. Do you have to treat the seed first? Do you have to soak it? Do you have to dry it? Do you have to let the plant grow and get really big? How long does it have to sit? Like, all of these things factor into it. And some things are different than others. One of the things that we don't have on here too, and I know this is a big question in contention in the gardening world, but like, if you let a cucumber get overripe, it will slow the plant down, is what people say. And I personally believe that. But that's a good way. Like, one cucumber can give you, I don't know how many seeds, enough seeds to last you years. So, you may sacrifice one plant at some point, but you probably have already gone out there and tried to pick a cucumber and you said, hey, this one's yellow. It's too ripe. And that could be the one that you save from,
Yeah, I think that, again, when you're thinking about which plants I want, which types of vegetables or flowers, I also think about how often you plant them in the season. Like cucumbers, squash are a good example where some people are sowing them multiple times within one growing year, right? And what a great opportunity you have to actually have some extra seeds on hand from that.
Yeah. And so we've got to get into the next one, which is, do you have space for it? So we've talked a lot about certain ones that it doesn't really matter. But then you've got like, and this is where you really start getting into like your cool season crops, where we're going to kind of, okay, I think it's best to just go ahead and combine the next two. What do you think?
I'm with it.
Space saving, and there's the space for the seed to go. And then do you have enough time to let it go to seed? So this kind of goes hand in hand, especially in the cool season. You'll have, everybody's had, I don't pick one, broccoli bolt. Right? Your broccoli bolts. And so you got a choice. You can cut it, you can eat it, or you can go for the seed. And if you go for the seed, it could be another month to let that plant go to seed. And you really need to leave a couple plants just so you can make sure you get some pollination going on. Now, I will say this. One plant will give you hundreds, if not thousands seeds. I don't know how many seeds it'll give you, but it's got to send up the flowers, and then it shoots up, then it creates seed pods, and then you let the seed pods dry out on the plant. This takes a long time, and it takes a lot more space, because what's going to happen in the process is that plant's now going to start to bush out. You're not just going to get one shoot of seed pods, you're going to get 15, 20 of them. And this plant, I mean, I did it with collards one year, and the plant that usually takes up about a square foot or two ended up taking up about 4 square feet. So it basically doubled in width, and then probably went up 300 to 400% in height. So 4 times the height. And so it just got absolutely massive. Now there's a couple benefits to that. You got flowers for the pollinators. You got seeds. But you're taking up time in your garden and valuable space. So I think this is part of, and we talk a lot about here, and I know I do in Sandy Bottom Homestead, about planning your garden. So if you plan to do that, just factor that into your plan,
There, I was trying to look to see when, but there is lettuce that I have in the front yard. It's like 3 plants that I let go to seed, and they're a little bit of a nuisance. So that lettuce would have been like growing in May and probably started to bolt in June. So we're going into August, and it's still on the whole program of producing seed. It's not produced seed yet. Every time I drag my water hose past one of them, I'm like, girl, pull this.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, well, no, I've come this far. And so based on my previous experience, there's enough time in my growing season for it to produce. And the way that it got there was through self-seeding. So I'm kind of like trying to, encourage that process to continue.
Yeah.
It's going to produce more seeds than I could use, and if I sent everybody that's listening seeds, it'd be more than they could use too.
Yeah.
That's the kind of I won't say tightrope dance, but the balance that you're trying to strike here. A couple of years ago, I was looking at it's from February 22nd of this year is when I posted it, but it happened a couple of years ago. I have those fire pit beds that are in the front yard. They're like 36 inches, and one single Russian kale plant, took the width of the plant once it went to seed, once it started flowering and started producing seed, was the entire width of that bed.
Yep.
One single plant.
And that's massive. That takes up a lot of space and time. Mm-hmm. So you've got to factor all of that in. Now, on the flip side, peppers take up no extra space. And a lot of times, no extra time. Green beans, same thing, no extra space. So you just, and it's really seasonal. I find that in the spring, they take up more space, and in the summer, less space. But let me say this. I tried to save radish seeds one year. Do you remember that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I tried to save radish seeds, French breakfast radish. I let it go to seed. It took 3 extra months. Didn't take up a whole lot of space, and I got 10 seeds off that plant.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't worth it, you know what I mean? So guess what? I'll never save radish seeds again unless I had to, you know what I mean? But it's just one of those things. And there's only one way to find out, and that's to try. And that was in that year of like, oh my gosh, there's no seeds to buy. Everybody's selling out. What do we do? That was the year when I was like, well, I'll just save all my own seeds. I did the same with carrots. I saved the seed. I got it to grow, took a whole year. And then I did everything that I was supposed to do. And when I took it apart, I couldn't even find the seed. Like I couldn't tell what was seed and what wasn't. So, you know what I mean? It just wasn't worth it. But now I know.
Yeah, and it kind of rolls back up to the space, ease of saving seed. So when you think about some of the things as we get to the latter part of the growing year, again, some of the decisions are much easier to make. Snapdragons are one of my favorite flowers, and I often buy them as transplants from a nursery, and I buy the colors and the height for the variety that I really like. And it's not as easy to go and then find that same flower in seed form. And so I have accidentally saved seeds from those, but they're so itty bitty. They're not the smallest seeds that I've worked with, but they're really, really small. And so it becomes a little bit of a pain to actually save that seed. So that's when I become a little bit more radical. And it's kind of like, I'm just, like you would do flowers, just tossing the seeds out there. I'm not doing anything that's really organized. Like I started snapdragons this year from seed that I had purchased. But it's like having the nice little envelope, right? So it's a little bit easier to manage them and sow them. Again, when you get to the end of the season, it's like whatever's going to produce seed is going to produce seed.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not planting anything behind it. That's actually a good opportunity when it comes to, all right, you may or may not have enough time. Nature will tell you, But if you don't have any plans to plant anything behind it, kind of let it do its thing. If you're not, I can get to be kind of a neat freak in some cases. Like, I want to have the bed clear when I'm putting the garden to bed. I don't have to have that for every garden bed, but I do like it for most. So there's that.
You know, so I save Snapdragon seeds. I think I still have a few left. One thing I recommend is definitely like buy the seed first so you know what the seed looks like. Because if I did not know what that Snapdragon seed looked like, I would have thought it was like dirt or dust or something and thrown it out. And then the other thing, like when I saved them, what I did is I just saved the whole pod. And then as I was planting them, I would just crack the pod open so I didn't have to keep up with them. That's an excellent tip.
I do that. I save my canna lily seeds. This is the first year in like the last 4 that I've not had success with starting them from seed based on the seeds that I save. You could save the tuber, of course, but I don't have that much experience with that. And since before this year, saving the seed worked, but it doesn't look like anything that I would normally. It definitely doesn't look like any vegetable plant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just dumped the entire thing into a bag and kind of crack the shell that's covering the seed beforehand. So this is a part of it. Like, you figure out what works best for you. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more pristine and actually separate your seeds, get a good look at them, package them up, and store them or whatever. To each his own when it comes to that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I'll say too, like if you go to save, and let's say you're worried about the space or the time, and so you save a broccoli plant seed, that one plant, again, is going to give you enough seed for multiple years of a big garden planted of broccoli. So you don't need to save all of your broccoli seeds. You pick one plant, once it's formed the pod, pull the others out and leave that one to kind of set in. It's funny as we sit here and talk, I've saved a lot of seeds in my day. And the ones that I actually find the most enjoyment out are flower seeds, because when you go to plant, you know how it is, you go to plant flowers. I mean, you could buy 50 different flowers to put in different pots and spaces and stuff like that. And so I find more, financial enjoyment out of saving flower seeds than I do vegetable seeds almost. And it doesn't take any extra space. That's the other thing too. It's easy. So that's kind of how I go about it. I'm also an opportunistic seed saver. And so what that means is like, hey, I look at a plant, I'm like, oh, this tomato's overripe. I'll save the seed. I won't necessarily plan on it, but if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, fine. But that's kind of where I sit with it. So I like to do stuff like that. And, same with the beans and whatnot. Like, I don't always plan to, but I'm like, you know what? It's already dried on the plant. Let me go ahead and save this seed. No point in wasting it. And you never know. You might like it. You might not. I've got a bunch of purple green beans that I save seeds from. I don't grow them anymore, but I've got a Ziploc bag full of them. And I mean, like a quart size one, absolutely jam-packed full. So, they're always there if I need them until they're not viable anymore, which is another aspect.
And that definitely loads into, like, is it worth your time? And how much time do you want to dedicate to the saving of the seed? I don't know. I was so caught up in the whimsicalness of it all. When I think about the first couple of years, I found a picture on my phone from some seeds, a seed package from 2016. And remember, I told you that, the first couple of years, it's like, oh, it's packaged. It has 2016 on it. It's I threw it away in 2017. Right? Like, didn't understand how that worked. And I beat myself up for that, like, for a year. But the amount of seeds that I purchased in 2019, 2020, when I knew I was going to have the space to do a lot more growing. And maybe, I don't know, maybe 2021, I think maybe I started tapering down then. There's seeds that I've never opened a package for.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't get around to growing that particular variety, right? Like, in the seed aisle for me at stores, a lot of the seeds I bought were from the stores too. At stores and stuff, it's like the candy aisle when you're checking out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, sure, let me try this, let me try that. And now I have to do the dance of, I have a €6 package of seeds, and somehow I also have a €2 package of seeds. You know, you really want to try to use a €6 package, but that takes a whole level of effort. Like, all right, sow it heavily, get prepared for poor germination, get prepared to come back in to supplement that, you know, those seeds that you started, because guess what? They all didn't germinate. Like, that's such a pain, you know?
Yeah, I've been working through my seed packets, trying to get rid of the old ones, and just throwing out in the yard and seeing what grows and seeing what doesn't, stuff like that. But not everything's viable for a long time. So, you know, that's great that I got a quart bag full of collard seeds. But guess what? 4 years later, I got a quart bag of collard seeds that are dead. So, I mean, what do you do there? You know what I mean? So I'll throw them out there and let them do whatever they want to do and just move on. But that's part of it. I'm going to skip one and then come back to it. The next one is what seeds to save. So this is referring to hybrids versus heirlooms. Generally speaking, hybrids don't give you true to the plant if you save the seed. Now, if it's an established multi-generational plant, it is possible for it to do that. But that's why a lot of people, and you'll hear if you're not familiar with, there is a heirloom army out there that will grow nothing but heirlooms. I was in that army for a long time, and I got a dishonorable discharge, so I'm not in it anymore. There's a time and a place for a hybrid, and I'm completely comfortable that. And I've talked about it on my YouTube channel. We've probably talked about it on here, and we'll probably talk about it again. So I don't want to eat up a bunch of time with it. But as far as like saving seeds, you really want to use an heirloom seed. That's going to give you true to the plant, and you basically just pick the healthiest, strongest plant with the best fruits, and you just save it that way. And I always thought it would be cool to like pass down a seed that I've solely saved for years and years to my son, and he could pass it down to his kids. And, you know, by the time his kids get it, it would be a different name. You could just name it whatever you want almost. It would just be like a family crop. So I always thought that would be like a cool thing to do. As of right now, he wants to be a farmer, but we'll see how long that lasts. Do you have anything to say about that? It's pretty straightforward.
It's going to give you, heirloom seeds are going to give you the best end result when it comes to, I'm saving this because I like this particular vegetable, and when I use these seeds and start growing again, I want it to be that vegetable. That said, I have saved and used hybrid seeds, and because I'm not that particular, like you look at something like a pepper, you know, as long as it's somewhere along the lines of that same pepper, it's fine. Like if I save seeds from a sweet pepper, I want them to be a sweet pepper, right? Now I would say something like, I don't want to save and then grow a particular, like a watermelon or something, and it's gone back to the previous versions of it. I probably would be disappointed with that. But again, it's to each its own. It all kind of comes in line with you're particular about what you're growing versus you just want to grow food.
Yeah.
Right? Like whatever you grow, if it's a hybrid, it's going to be edible.
It'll grow, but it won't grow true to the parent plant. That's the terms I was looking for.
So there could be some parts of this particular plant that you're growing it for, and you may not see that. Like you know how like the tricolor, plants and variegated leaves and things of that nature, you may not get to that, right? And that's the reason why you're growing it. Well, womp womp,
Exactly. Now, to go backwards, we have to go into how to save seeds, and we'll keep this one to summer. We can come back and talk about fall later on because you got plenty of time. But summer seeds, again, we've talked about it. It's easy. A lot of times it's just harvesting the vegetable and pulling the seeds out, right? Tomatoes, how do you save your tomato seeds?
Pull a ripe tomato off the plant as I'm cutting it to consume, especially if I'm, again, doing some type of canning where I may not want the seeds to be in my canned product. I am taking them out, rinsing them off in a cup. I'm not doing the whole floating test, I am scraping the seeds, the gel off of those seeds. And then I haven't saved tomato seeds in a few years, but then laying those seeds out on a napkin or a paper plate to dry.
Right.
And that's it.
So there's a couple more steps, though. You say that's it, but there's a few steps involved there versus a pepper seed where you just cut it, pull it out, and you're basically done. One thing is you want to let them dry. All seeds. You got to lay them out and let them dry. And this is where the problem.
That's the reason why they're on a paper plate.
Right. So I use, I went to the Dollar Tree and I got plastic pie covers or pie tins, and I put them in there, and then you can space them out pretty good. But if you don't, they're going to mold and they're going to go bad. So then you've just wasted your time. So no matter what, even if you pull it out of a pepper and you're like, oh, this seed's dry, you still let it dry. I'm not picky about how long. Sometimes I'll leave them out for a couple months if I've got a place to set them and they're not going to get confused. It doesn't really get, it doesn't bother me too much. And I haven't had any issues with that. How about you?
What I have done for pepper seeds, I've had, I come back and look and there's a little bit of molding. What I have done for pepper seeds is, and this can absolutely introduce that molding. Seed saver beware. I will cut, how you cut like a bell pepper, the top out, like pull like the core of it out, and that's where all the seeds have clustered. I don't worry about the stragglers. I'll put that entire core on a paper plate or in a bowl where I won't put a top on it, because what that does is that retains the color of the pepper, and it keeps me honest. Like, I know that it's not a cayenne pepper because I can look at the shape of it. Right. I know that was a bell pepper. I know for that color bell pepper, this is the variety that I grew. So I've done that, and it's worked more times than it's not. Right. And so once that whole situation dries up, I can just kind of flick the pepper seeds off and bag them up. I have clearly let seeds sit for many weeks, and to your point, many months in some cases.
Yeah. Like, it's not uncommon. So we're coming up into seed saving season. I will pull seeds now, and I won't put them up until January. If they're not in the way, and I have them set off to the side. Now, I don't do what you do. I take them off of the pepper completely because I don't want any moisture around them. Mm-hmm. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and, I'll kind of mix them up with my finger. I'll pick up that little pie tin and like shake it a little bit. And just kind of keep the seeds moving so they don't stick together real bad. But I keep a little sticky notes next to it, and then I'll just write, cayenne or something and put it in that pie pan, and that way I don't get confused. So I'll do that too. And it depends on how much I'm saving. If I'm saving a whole lot, which I don't usually do like multiple varieties, I usually will save like one pepper or one tomato or something like that. And the thing again is, go back, the amount of seeds you get, you don't need to do it every year. You can, you can take a couple tomatoes and it'll last you 3-4 years of planting. So it's not really that big a deal.
Yeah, the Post-it is a great idea. Sometimes I'll write on a napkin and sit that napkin on the plate. Trying to limit that waste to a degree. But I think probably the biggest tip is labeling with some sort, because most of us do want to know the thing that we're going to be growing from that seed, and then it drying. It's kind of like if you're into dehydrating, the enemy of dehydrating is going to be moisture, right? Same thing when it comes to saving seeds, and before you start packaging them away, like, I mean, and you'll know, right? If the seed has gone bad, if it's turned, it'll be pretty evident.
Yeah, it will be. And I mean, you'll see mold. Mm-hmm. So, you just kind of keep an eye out for it. And melon seeds tend to be really bad about molding too, because they come out, especially a watermelon. I mean, they come out sopping wet. So just be careful. But I like to pull all the flesh away as much as possible.
I think that's a better approach, regardless of what I actually do. Yeah,
but I can see why you would do yours. I mean, again, you get so many seeds off that pepper, so what if you got a couple that go bad? And the thing is once you save the seeds and you go to plant them and, you put a couple more in for germination, you got so many, you can put 5 in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because what ends up happening, especially with pepper seeds in particular, I didn't go into it with the intention of saving the seed. It's kind of like, again, the opportunity is there.
Right.
You look like, I don't want to pass this up, but I'm actually doing something else with this pepper that I've just cut open.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things like you don't stop and do the right thing, and guess what? Sometimes you end up paying for it. So
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, for the summer seeds, it's just like that. You just pull them out and you go. And even going into like winter squash and stuff. Look. Butternut squash, winter squash, Seminole pumpkins, all kinds of those squashes. You're pulling the seeds out anyways. Like you're already pulling them out, and you're pulling them out hundreds out of each one. Go ahead and just run your fingers through it, separate them, and dry them, and you're done. It's so easy. Not like you're literally getting into contact with the seeds and having to make a decision when you cook it. Like, I'm going to throw this away or I'm going to keep it. It's that simple. So going back to like great ones to start with, but for summer, I think it's the easiest time, except tomatoes, I think, are the hardest for summer, just because you have that extra step. And I even know people that don't take that extra step and have had pretty good luck with it. But, soaking in water and all that stuff, like I've done it and it's not a big deal. Yeah.
The kind of one public service announcement, and a lot of y'all already know this, there's some things that, as in like, don't get caught up around the axle when it comes to this. And, the goal is saving them all and sacrifice the enjoyment of the actual veggie or the fruit. So something like a eggplant or a zucchini, both that I'm thinking as soon as we hit stop recording, I need to go and cut out, harvest from the garden. Those are, for me and my taste, better before those seeds start to really produce.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't let either of those go for the purpose of seed saving. Those are, to your point about the cucumbers. You're going to come across, if you have a good squash year, even if you have a good eggplant year, you're going to come across one of those veggies that's gone too far. And there you have it.
Yeah. So the last one is going to be tools that you need. Super easy. We said, I use pie tins. Batavia uses paper plates. I use sticky notes to label them. Do you do any kind of labeling while they're drying?
Yeah, so I'll use the sticky note. I'll use a napkin. If I am, depending on if I'm at the last of it, I'll even tape the seed package to whatever, container they're sitting in. I think it's a good idea. I haven't tried it yet, but like for my seed shelf, using that as a way to actually have them sit and dry, like using that seed shelf, if you have one, for more than just starting seeds.
That's what I do.
A lot of times the time that I'm saving the seeds, I'm not actually like in full force seed starting mode. So I have that extra space. Yep.
I use my seed shelf and I use the easiest one to get to. And then that'll probably be the last one that I add plants to. And again, I have plenty of space, so I'll fill it on up. And then afterwards, I use that too, because I can also turn a fan on it too, on low, to keep air flowing if I really need to. But ceiling fan will work, anything like that. You don't have to do anything super crazy. You just want to keep that moisture off of it. And then, the next thing I do, is I store them. I use the coin envelopes. The paper ones, I use that. And the only reason why I use that, well, there's two reasons why I use that instead of the plastic ones. One is, the big one is in case there's moisture. So if there's moisture, the paper will kind of wick it away a little bit. Just a little bit of added protection. It's an insurance policy. And the other one, it's environmentally friendly to do paper. We have to sell ours in plastic resealable Ziplocs, which I would actually rather do because I could reuse that longer over and over. But that's kind of, where I sit with that. But for the most part, like, I'm thinking that if I continue to let my seeds go up there and dry for as long as I do, I'll probably switch to the little Ziploc bags, because when I'm done with them, I can seal them back up and they won't spill.
Yeah, some of the seeds that I have purchased from other places, especially when I have a lot of seeds, I'll actually put them inside of the package that they sent them to me in. There'll be a little plastic baggie inside of that, because, it's not uncommon for you to, knock over a package of seeds, a package of, especially when they're paper, like it wears and you basically have seeds like, dripping out of that packaging. It lets me, again, keep track of things.
Yeah.
And I know that at this point, those seeds are safe.
Yeah.
So one other note, I'm pretty clumsy. And so having an opportunity to have those seeds sealed up is a gift.
Yeah. I mean, you want to keep them protected. You've worked hard for them. You don't want to just throw them on the ground and walk away. Mm-hmm. Any other tools you use?
Well, I mean, I think that your good old, magic marker.
Yeah, Sharpie.
Yeah, Sharpie. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then you're done, So it's low cost. You can get 1,000 envelopes for like $10, I think. And you'll never run out. A Sharpie, and then go to the Dollar Tree, and you're ready to save seeds, man. You've done all the work. So it's a low cost entry into it. And then you got to think about it. Each pack of seeds is $3, $4, $5. So you're saving, and each one you'll get multiple ones. So just keep that in mind. But that's the gist of saving seeds. I mean, you could get way more in depth, but I really don't think you need to go like super crazy, like, college
maybe
class
they'll tell
style.
us if they thought Leonard. Yeah, he's got a shrug on his shoulders. That's pretty normal for him.
Yeah, of course
But
it
ask
is.
if we needed to go further, but
No, but what we do need to do is, we talked a lot about the space and the time and all that. I can go ahead and tell you right now, if you don't have the Planter app, this is another good use for it. I have taken the Planter app, which is a sponsor of the show, which thank you very much. And we have taken this, and I'd say, okay, I'm saving this collard plant, and I would go back in because it's square foot drag and drop interface, and I would add the collard plant around to visualize when I was planning how much space it's going to take. So this is another good way for it. You can use it for all of these things. You can use it to plan your garden. You can use it to keep track of it. Staying ahead of the planting season is always the best way to do it. So definitely check out the Planter app. It's a show favorite. It's simple, tells you combative and companion plantings, has a seed box, flowers, thousands of varieties of all your vegetables. It's an all-around great app. You can use it on your on your cell phone, your tablet, or your PC. You can get it at the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. If you use the link below, which I strongly encourage you to do, it will get you a healthy discount on a lifetime membership of the Planter app. So get the Planter app, the Planter app, available on Google and Apple. Booyah. Okay, you ready for the question of the day?
I am.
Okay. James writes, and this is on the Backyard Gardens community garden, and this isn't an actual question, like they didn't label it that, but I thought it was really good, and I think it's something people can use. James writes,
"Hey, James." I apologize, James, and Young Bean sees it all over my face. I actively chose to bring water to this recording versus the rest of my coffee, and I'm fighting for my life.
Oh, come on. That's why I don't drink coffee.
Hold on, let's try one more time. In 3, 2, hey, James.
Hey, James.
Yeah. But that just sucked all the energy out of my participation in the last 10 minutes for this question of the day. I don't have much more.
You're done. So James posted a picture of his pear tree that he bought. And he said, purchase this pear tree before any knowledge. And then in parentheses, he said, still very little knowledge. And he says, and learned that branches at an angle isn't ideal. Should I still use this tree as a pollinator, or can I train the branches to be more beneficial? Well, you are right up my alley, sir. So, do you know anything about this?
Why aren't branches on an angle beneficial?
That I'm not completely clear of. What I'm imagining is as you get loaded down with pears, it puts a lot of stress on the limb and can break it.
Yep. That's what I assumed, yeah.
Yeah. So you can train trees if you want. You could put a piece of rope at the end of the tree, tie it down, leave it anchored down for the year, and it will train it that way. The best way to do this is you take the tree, and then in the spring early spring, just as the buds are starting, like you'll be out there and you'll look at it and you'll see the leaf buds starting to come out. You trim the tree, leaving about a 1/2 inch of space above the bud. And what that'll do is it'll force that tree to back bud, and you'll encourage the limbs to kind of start branching out, and you can go all the way around and kind of clean it up afterwards. So this is a way you can do that. And it's a common thing with nursery trees to get that are just kind of not in the best of shape. But we got to remember too, these are long haul purchases. Mm-hmm. If a branch does break, it's going to fix itself. So just remember that. I have a peach tree that I have to trim every year, and I trim it so it stays low and branches out. And so I'll do that each year. And that's right. I mean, usually for me, it's probably late January, in the middle of February, I'll go out there and I'll trim that tree. And you can even look up, I don't know exactly for pear trees how it will be, but the way the buds are coming out, you can tell which is going to be a leaf and which is going to be a flower, which a flower turns into a fruit. So you could trim it leaving the flower at the tip, and then that's where your pear would be. Or you could trim it so that's where the leaves will be, and it'll branch out from there. But every time you cut that tree back, it will back bud, and it'll back bud further down the trunk as well. So it's a good way to kind of train your trees to do it without, obviously I grow bonsai and stuff, so we wire trees and stuff like that. But I wouldn't do that with these. I would just trim it. It's called a clip and grow method. And so you just clip it, grow it, clip it, grow it. And each year you would just kind of refine that until you get that bushiness that you want. Or you could just let it grow wild and just deal with what you get. I don't think we should interfere with nature as much as we want to. I will say that.
How tall does that peach tree you have get?
My peach tree, I have it at 6 feet tall. It would get 20 feet tall, but I keep it cut low. So the idea with a peach tree is you want the middle to be open so the sun can get in and ripen the peaches and stuff like that. So
I was recently talking about container gardening over on Be Better Garden, and the amount of people that commented about the fruit trees they're growing in containers was super surprising for me. I'm not quite sure why, but it was surprising for me. And I think that I have generally had a concept for years of, like, every tree grows into the size of a huge apple tree. Like, there's someone with a ladder every season harvesting apples as there would be any other tree. And that's just not the way that some trees are bred to grow. Some fruit trees are bred to grow. And then even if they are, you kind of have control over it, as you talk about, like with what you're doing, and keeping them pruned.
Well, you have it's beneficial to keep it low because you can harvest it all easier. If I got to put a ladder up, they ain't getting harvested. End of story. You can cut it out. So, there's a lot of people that are doing it. But I mean, I'd personally just throw them in the ground and just let it grow. It's one of those things where just over the years it'll grow and grow and grow. And next thing you know, you have this big giant tree. There you go. So there you go. If you have a question of the day, feel free to leave it at the Backyard Gardens Community Garden on Facebook, or you can email us at bygquestion@gmail.com. We've got an email in there that we need to answer. We're going to do it as a show, or something like that, because it's more than just a question. So if you haven't heard yours yet, that's what the holdup is. So we're working on that. Other than that, that is it for saving seeds and pruning fruit trees. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Please check out our seeds, check out our Amazon list and all that good stuff. Get yourself the planner app. And remember, on this show, we aim to do one thing, and that's learn to grow and grow for change.
We also hope that we'll see you.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by checking out our seed shop below. We have all kinds of seeds available for you, and we're going to be adding new seeds shortly, so check that out. Get yourself some seeds. It's free shipping, over $35 orders. So go ahead, get a full garden. What are you waiting for? Order your seeds and stock up. or you can become a subscriber. You can either be an Apple subscriber or a patron, and that will help support the show. You'll get one free episode every month, an extra episode, that is. So we definitely would love to see you over there and become part of our crew. Join the Backyard Gardens community garden in Facebook. That's free. Go ahead, join that, and join the community where all the listeners get together and they can help each other out with their trials and tribulations and just show off their gardens. There's not a better way to do it. And if you're curious about what's going on in our gardens, you can check out our individual YouTube channels. So I'm at Sandy Bottom Homestead, and Batavia is at Be Better Garden. You can check that out and see how each of us are growing and what we talk about on those, because a lot of times we will coincide with the podcast and help add information in that maybe we didn't get out in the show or we feel that's pertinent at a certain time of year. So check that out and enjoy seeing our gardens and what we do in them. And we have an Amazon store which has all the products that we use and recommend in our gardens, and it helps support our show. And we also add to this list periodically, so be sure to check it out periodically to see if there's anything that you need for your garden. Everything that you do, including a like and a subscribe and even a review, will help us learn to grow and grow for change.
See ya.